All right, today in office hours, we're going to talk about setting up playgrounds for CPQ. Try stuff and break things. That is the single best way to learn pretty much everything. Obviously, you don't want to break anything permanently, but whether it is Salesforce or jujitsu or music, you have to do it and you have to try it. So get yourself in the practice room, put yourself in the gym, or in this case, get on Trailhead and learn this way. It's going to be a lot more effective in terms of studying. Over the next several office hours, since the format seems to be preferred, where instead of just getting lots of random questions, instead I say, I'm going to pick a topic and I'm going to drone on about it for an hour. And hopefully it's helpful. And then as people watch these, there are some comments on the YouTube videos, or people will send me emails. Hey, can you talk about this? I welcome those questions. I don't have a formal way to capture them yet, so just send me an email. John.garvins@garvinsconsulting.com is an easy way to get a hold of me, or you can go to garvinsconsulting.com. Just put your name in my web to lead form, and it'll go right into my Salesforce org, and then I can follow up with you that way. I also don't spam. I'm terrible at spamming. So if anybody who's been on my email list for a long time knows that I barely ever send anything. In fact, people have called me out and been upset because I don't spam them enough, which is weird, but I'd rather have that than the opposite. Anyway, let's talk about a couple different flavors of CPQ playgrounds that we can spin up. I'm going to create two while we're here, starting with old school with a developer org, because that one will take a little bit longer to do. And while that's baking, then I'll spin up the one from Trailhead itself. There are two basic paths that we can go down to create some sort of playground or environment that we can mess around in. The first is if you just Google CPQ playground, you'll end up with this link right here. Sign up for a Trailhead playground with Salesforce CPQ. This is a very easy way to go about it. The reason that I don't personally do this is because I like more control over the org. I don't want to have a lot of extra products in there that I don't need. I don't want to have a lot of configurations I got to get rid of, etc. I want to build everything from scratch. However, if you're just getting started, it could be a very useful way to go because it's got some pre-built bundles. It has the IT Pro Pack bundle from the CPQ course and some computers, and there are pieces and parts that are already built for you, which is very useful in understanding how this stuff works together. If you just had a kitchen with a whole bunch of ingredients and equipment in it, but no one has ever shown you what the finished dish looks like or anything like that, it's kind of hard to put it together. But if you have seen what the dish looks like already, then it's much easier to conceptualize how those different pieces and parts interact with each other.
Is there a
But
limit to how many you can spin off, John?
no, you can
No?
spin up as many CPQ playgrounds from Trailhead as you want, and you can create as many free developer orgs as you want. Things to keep in mind is that, I don't know, we'll call it a year or two or three ago. I lose track of time, but a while ago, Salesforce said, hey, these dev orgs, if you're not logging into them, they're taking up storage. And if you don't log in for, I think it's a period of 6 months, then we're going to get rid of your org. That's fine. Just log in every 6 months and you can keep going in perpetuity. With CPQ and billing, there is I think it's a 90-day expiration date that happens automatically. And so what you need to keep in mind is that when I create this dev org, I only have 90 days to use CPQ. I can still use the rest of the stuff. I could delete CPQ and reinstall it if I wanted to do that. And maybe what we'll do in about 3 months is I'll do a basic, well, maybe not so basic, depends on how much we build, but perhaps what I could do is a deployment of CPQ from this developer org that I'm going to create today into a new developer org because my license is about to expire here. And then I could take all that stuff and do a series of office hours sections on, all right, now that we built all this cool stuff in here, my license is about to expire. I don't want to lose all of that. How about I do a deployment and we move the stuff from this org into the next sandbox? That could be perhaps a useful exercise. There's not a lot of documentation or videos on how to do a deployment of CPQ. Plus, there are DevOps tools now that can handle a lot of that stuff for us. Prodly was the first. Capado does some of this stuff. GearSet. There's a whole slew of DevOps tools that can help you move the metadata and the data into another sandbox. But that's a conversation for another day. For now, we're going to keep this very simple. I'm going to spin up a dev org. I'll enter my information.
One thing, I think the 3-month expiration is no longer valid. Like I have like some orgs that I created. It's still working. I created like 6 months back. It was previously 3 months.
Okay. I
Think
mean, I'm not against that. I would also say that there are other ways to get it extended. Sometimes by logging a support ticket, they'll do that for you. If you say, hey, can you extend this for another 3 months or whatever? What Salesforce is trying to avoid is a situation where you're basically using a dev org as a real production instance. That's what they want to avoid. So that's why there's size limits and all these other things. But you can do all sorts of cool stuff with a developer org. We're going to call this company, I don't know, revenue cloud office hours. Let's see how this works. I think that should affect the namespace of the org once it spins it up. And I'm in the state of Illinois, 2 hours west of Chicago. In a little tiny town. Okay, so I'm going to do, let's see. And for those of you not as familiar with the administration side of Salesforce, the username is different than the email address, but it needs to be in a similar format to an email address. And it must be unique across the entire Salesforce ecosystem. So I'm going to do John Garvin's at revenue cloud office hours.com. And I'm going to add to that today's, I'll do 2024-01. I think that should work. Actually, I'm going to put this over here. There we go. I'll give myself a little naming convention. So this is me in January of 2024. Revenue Cloud office hours. I created the terms of service. Sign me up. Okay. Beep, boop, processing. I didn't notice that before on the button, but someone had a little bit of fun with their button creation. While that's processing, I'm going to pull up another tab here and bring up my Gmail so that I can get that ready. All right. On the flip side, I'm going to create a playground in Trailhead. So now we're switching our attention. I'm logged into Trailhead. I have found the module sign up for Trailhead Playground with Salesforce CPQ. Here, the process is fairly straightforward. I click my little drop down here. I say create a playground, or actually, no, it's a link here somewhere. Where is it? There it is. Sign up for a free dev org with CPQ. So this one's a little bit different. You'll need this for the billing and super badge and the advanced billing super badge if you're trying to go for those. And once again, I'm using the same email address, but my usernames need to be different. This is and then postal code, username, and it would warn me here and say, hey, this already exists. So I'm going to do V2 on this one to create a second one that's technically a different username. Sign me up. Fantastic. Now it's a waiting game. while we're waiting, I'm going to pull up a link. I'll include these in the show notes as well as links to this stuff, so you can do this on your own if you want to. But I noticed we have our first org is created. Verify account. Still setting things up. It may take a minute. I love when they send you an email saying it's done, and then when you go to use it, they say, just kidding, it's not done. But what this will look like once you get your link, get your verify account, Revenue Cloud office hours was used in the URL. I'm going to verify the account. Let's try this again. Maybe it'll refresh. No? Okay. Well, while that's waiting, I'll come over here to SteelBrick 2. All right. Back in the day, before the acquisition, SteelBrick was the name of CPQ. That's why the namespace of the package is SBQQ, SteelBrick, quote, quickly. And we would install this package. You'd go to the SteelBrick website, you would go to the links that look like this, and you would install the package into the org. Then SteelBrick was acquired by Salesforce. Lots of stuff changed. Mostly for the first couple of years, it was just like the logo changed, and we're going, yeah, it's still the same product. And there were a few enhancements and stuff that came out. In recent memory, there have not been significant updates to the CPQ or the billing package, but the rumor mill says there's cool stuff around the corner. I'll believe it when I see it. From here, we can install a bunch of different things. It's steelbrick.my.site.com/install CPQ. If I wanted to install billing links, I can go to the billing link, which also includes CPQ, but you also have links to install Salesforce billing. And if I wanted to install advanced approvals, I could go to install AA. I believe that advanced approvals is in here too. Oh, it's not. Is it in the SteelBrick? It is not. Okay, so there's 3 different links. Install CPQ, install AA, install billing. That should get you pretty much everything you need, including you've got Einstein Analytics for CPQ. You would have to have Einstein Analytics licenses to use that. That would enable pricing guidance. Authorize.net or Pay Easy. This is much further down the path when you start collecting payments and doing all that stuff in the Salesforce billing platform. We're not going to worry about any of that on this call. All I really care about are these CPQ links. So we'll go back to this original here. Now, if you drill into the details, you could expand this. You used to be able to expand this down. Guess not. Here's the link to install in production. Here's a link to install in a sandbox. Even though I'm creating a Salesforce developer org, it is technically a production link that I need to use here. So we use this. If you're installing CPQ in an actual sandbox, you're doing your DevOps process, you've got multiple environments you're managing, you're moving from the sandbox to the staging environment to UAT and so on. As you move through that process, you will install sandbox links until you're at the final stage of installing in production, and then you'll do that. You could also install the Service Cloud for CPQ package. This will use service contracts and contract line item objects instead of the contract and subscription objects. There are other factors to consider there. We could talk about those some other time, but you'll be using either contracts and subscriptions, or you'll be using service contracts and contract line items. It's a fundamental shift in where the data goes. The functionality is the same, but the objects are different, as well as the implications. The relationships between the contract and subscriptions is a lookup versus the master detail relationship between the service contract and the contract line items. I will not bore you with the details on why those things are quite different, or the ramifications and implications for using both. Just know that it's a big decision that has to be made. You're going to make that decision one time and you're going to live with it. There you go. Any questions on that so far? Cool. Okay, and it's still not done spinning that one up. Is it done with the other one? No? Okay. Well, this is going swimmingly. It's always during the live demo that things don't work. Still setting a few things up. I'm sure you are. Well, let's check back with Trailhead and see if it's here. Check your email to confirm your new account. Well, I haven't gotten that email yet either. Let's do a little refresh of the page. And maybe this will work. Let's see. Is it in here yet? No. Still not there. All right. I have created this, right? I created that. And I'm ready to install. Rocket Lawyer keeps trying to send me stuff. I always love seeing those emails, by the way, from QuickBooks that says, hey, your invoice has been paid. That's a good day. Let's verify again. All right, I'm going to pause the recording here for just a second. There's no sense in watching this until it's actually done. All right, even though our sandboxes are still not done, I was trying to do this like a cooking show where you do like the quick cut and then all of a sudden everything's fully baked. Kranti, you had a question.
My question was, when you created the dev org or the production org, why would the CPQ and the Service Cloud not come pre-installed? Why do we have to do that separately?
This developer edition org here from the developer.salesforce.com/signup is a very generic org. It is just an instance of Salesforce. It has some data in it. It has some products. It's like the Gen Watt Power Systems Company or something like that. But it is not it's not CPQ or Revenue Cloud specific. So to make it that way, I'm installing these packages. It's kind of like when you buy a new iPhone. It's got the standard things, standard features and functionalities of an iPhone. However, if I want QuickBooks on my iPhone, I have to install it. If I want Facebook on my iPhone, which I don't want, I would have to install it. So this is the same basic thing. When I create a developer edition, I have the operating system essentially, but I'm going to put more stuff inside of it to get it where I need it to go. Aaron, you had a question.
I was just going to ask how the CPQ org that you open up through Trailhead is different from a regular dev org.
It is different from a regular dev org for the opposite reason of this one not having that stuff in it. The CPQ playground was specifically created to have that stuff in it already for the purposes of this. There's in the background there are tools internally at Salesforce to clone orgs. So that's what you see when you get a demo from a solution engineer. A lot of the demos they're harbor cruises, so to speak, which is like, and here's the Capitol building, and here's this thing. They're very generic, same thing every time. I can spin up a brand new instance of that in about 5 minutes that has all of that demo stuff pre-built. You're essentially copy pasting an entire org, including all its automations and this, that, and the other thing. The entire bunch of stuff is copied. That's essentially what's happening here. Well, both with the developer edition, because there's some data. So there's a master org that's the source of all of these clones. It's almost like the movie Gremlins. We pour some water on the other one, and then we keep spinning off more orgs, except hopefully they're not getting more evil each time, like the movie. This CPQ playground is based off of one. You'll have a very similar one if you take the CPQ class that's sold by Salesforce or the billing class. You'll use a lot of this stuff. It'll already be in there. Let's try it now. Oh, this looks promising. Oh, look at that. All right, so this is for my first Revenue Cloud office hours. I'm going to use password generation. Boom, created a brand new one. Pay no attention to where I was born. Yeah, okay, I don't care about that. And I'm going to copy my username. Copy email address back to here. I'm just going to save this in LastPass really quickly. Otherwise, I'll lock myself out. Fantastic. This is our first Revenue Cloud Office Hours org. We see up here, the naming convention was used for us. We have our custom domain up at the top. When I go to the installed packages, this is where we would expect to see Salesforce CPQ. But I see nothing. That's going to be the fundamental difference, is that when we spin up the CPQ playground, we're going to see stuff in here. All right. That's the first org that has nothing in it so far. But let's talk about how to install CPQ in this specific org for the purposes of this particular office hours. Just because I know I'm going to need it later, I'll copy this custom domain here. I think that's what it's called. And I'm going to go over here. Now, remember, we wanted to install Salesforce CPQ in this org. But this is a dev org, very plain, vanilla, ordinary dev org. There are a couple of prerequisites we need to make sure we have in place for this to work. Fundamentally, I need to ensure that orders have been activated. So we've enabled orders. Just for funsies, I'm going to make sure that we have reduction orders, negative, zero quantity orders, and that's pretty much it. I'm not going to worry about anything else. But as long as you have your orders enabled, you'll be able to install this. If you do not have orders enabled and you try to install Salesforce CPQ, it will not install. You'll get an error message and it'll bonk on you. And then you'll be frustrated and you go, why did it do that? And then you go, I forgot to enable orders. And after you curse yourself a number of times, you'll be able to install it. Now, here is the production link that I want to use. I'm going to use a different username. Here's that domain that I was going to use from earlier. This is roadcloudofficehours.my.salesforce.com. I click continue. Oh, you didn't like that? Maybe I need the full thing. Let's go to home. Let's see here. Let's try this. Use custom domain. Let's see if it likes this. Get rid of these extra HTTPS. Does it like that? I think it does. Hooray. Now we get to this screen. We've all seen this screen at this point. It doesn't really matter what we do because we're just messing around in a dev org. If you wanted to be a purist about it, you could install for admins only, because then we're going to use permission set licenses, permission set groups, and all these other things to assign licenses to people or install for specific profiles. I don't really care about the best practice at this point. The best practice these days is to install for admins only and then use those other elements to do everything. That's what I'm going to do. I'm the only person who's going to use this org, install for admins only. Yes, I acknowledge that's what I'm doing. Fantastic. Are you cool if we give third-party access to this org? Absolutely. I'm happy to do that. Let's continue. Now I put the turkey in the oven. The turkey is now in the oven. Let's go back to my email and see if the other one is there. It is Revenue Cloud Office Hours 2. So while the cake is baking in Revenue Cloud Office Hours 1, I'm going to open this other account here, this other org. We're going to go here, Revenue Cloud Office Hours 2, and create another password. Boom. And change the password. For those of you keeping track, I'm now logged into two different orgs. One is installing Salesforce CPQ. The other, let's get rid of this. The other already has it inside.
So are you creating two for us to show us two different ways? Or okay.
Yep. Two different ways, and then I can mess around and show stuff. I'll probably only use one of the two that I'm showing today, but I wanted to show the two different approaches. The added
Got it.
benefit too of creating through Trailhead is that I can see, once I refresh my screen here, I'll actually see that I have, I should see somewhere. I probably got to connect the org. I'm not going to worry about that, but you got to connect your org back to Trailhead and then you can use it to verify all the different things. There are other blog posts and stuff about that. I don't need to show it here. I just wanted to show what's in these orgs. Back to Office Hours 2, if we look at that same installed packages section of the setup, we will find that we already have CPQ installed.
Cool.
There it is. And if you do the Billing Specialist Super Badge, I think there's a separate link that installs both CPQ and billing or something like this, or maybe we have to install billing. I forget. Oh, look at that. Does not expire. Maybe that was the previous, because I have an OG org that goes way back where CPQ is expired in that org. Maybe I'll uninstall and reinstall. I think I'll do that, because then I won't have to worry about it. That's my original, where the username is john@johngarvins.com. That's my original dev org. It's been with me through thick and thin. It's like that old comfy chair, that you don't want to get rid of. Anyway, so this one's already got CPQ installed, which means it's also has, if we look for the orders, order settings, orders have already been enabled. Negative quantity orders, that's going to be important for amendments. Any questions on that so far? All right, if not, let's go back to the kitchen and let's see if our app has finished baking yet. I doubt it because CPQ is pretty big. But this is, still not done. Okay. So that is still baking, but we can see now there are two different ways to create dev orgs for yourself to try some of this stuff. One is to create a free developer edition of Salesforce. You can create as many of those as you want, and you can install CPQ, advanced approvals, billing, etc. inside of that org. Or you can go to Trailhead, find the CPQ link, and do all of that stuff. If we go to the Billing Specialist Super Badge, I want to see if this is true. The Billing Specialist Super Badge, where is that? Super Badge. I should see it. There we go. Okay, so Billing Specialist Super Badge. I did this a while ago, but I think in one of these, what am I going to do here? Pre-work. There you go. If I click this link on the Billing Specialist Super Badge, this will create a Salesforce developer org with CPQ and billing installed. So perhaps you want this one. I'll drop this in the chat right now if you want to save it. I can include all these different links in the show notes as well, since this is effectively turning into a podcast or ongoing online course or something like that. Anyway, this is how you can get one that's already got that stuff in it. Doesn't really matter which approach you take. Kranti, since I know you specialize in WriteRev, you probably want to bookmark this one, and then you could create one of these, install WriteRev, and you're off to the races, unless you're probably using the environment manager though, or something like that. There's all sorts of other ways to do it. I don't know if you're officially a Salesforce partner yet, but there are resources available to help do things like this easier for partners. And if you want, we could probably talk later about that, but it's worth looking into. And the Salesforce Partner Program doesn't cost us anything as consultants. So I recommend people just join it. They basically verify that your business entity exists, that you're not a criminal, blah, 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 blah. And then you get access to the various benefits of the partner program. I won't say what those benefits are because I want this video to be timeless and the benefits change over time, but you can just Google it, Salesforce Partner Program, consultants, whatever, and then you'll find all the details. It took me about a month to get through the process, but it was very simple and straightforward. Any questions around the methods of creating sandboxes for yourself with CPQ and or billing? Fantastic. Let's go back into the kitchen and see if CPQ is installed. I could just check my email for this, but it's more tenuous to to check this. Other things we can start to think about. Oh, the other differences between these orgs is what data, if there's any data, are inside. This is the first org that I'm in right now, where it's a regular dev org. I have the same Burlington Textiles, Dickinson PLC, et cetera, that's in every one of these orgs. You'll find there are similarities over here in the other org that I have, where if I look at my accounts, it's probably the same exact accounts, if my memory serves correctly. Yes, I don't care about notifications, all accounts. Same stuff. There's a little bit of extra between the two. Let's get rid of that. If we look at the different accounts, there's some different stuff that's in here, but most of the accounts are the same. Though the accounts that do have things, let's take a look at Clever M Holdings. It's probably got some manufactured data in here specific to Revenue Cloud. If I was to guess, I don't know that for sure. It's in here for some reason. I don't know why it's in here. Probably because the CPQ information section's been populated by stuff. The page layouts are all going to be assigned, and several other things. You'll also have, if you go to the CPQ, oh, we're on the CPQ app. So the CPQ app has various tabs across the top that are collections of objects that we can use. And then if you want, you can, of course, go into the setup and change what you see up here. Summary variables, for example, maybe you're not using those, or maybe you want to get rid of localizations. I haven't seen too many uses of that over the years. Quote processes. I avoid guided selling as much as possible because there are usually simpler solutions to doing that. And it's a lot of building stuff that's fickle. And it really is only a product filter. So I would much rather use search filters, which is, I think I got into in another one of these conversations. Let's see here. Go back in the setup, check in on our progress. The tension continues to build. All right. Anything yet? Still nothing. Okay, well, it'll be there eventually. We can start there with our next office hours. Are there any other questions about installations? Things to think about? I can actually go to the other one and start to talk about some of the package settings if that would be useful.
Sure.
Okay, I'll just keep
one quick
droning on.
question.
Yeah, what's up?
I'm assuming they come with one currency, right? So is there a
Yeah.
limit on number of currencies that you can enable?
The only limit to the number of currencies that you can enable are the number of currencies that Salesforce Core has available. Just
Okay.
for the sake of it, though, since you asked the question, let's talk about how you would enable that. It's pretty simple to enable multiple currencies. While it is simple and easy to do, it is important to understand that the impact of that is significant, as you can imagine.
Mhm.
But to quickly enable them, I'll do that in this Office Hours 2 org. I'll use the Office Hours 1 org as most of the stuff we're building. But since this actually has stuff in it already, we'll go ahead and do that. To enable currencies, we're going to go to the setup. And let's first check out our company information. We can find some important details here with our company information. One of the most important of those details is going to be the org ID itself. This is the specific org ID of this org. So if I was submitting a support ticket, this is how I would tell them what org I'm in. It tells me what kind of org it is, what instance I'm on at Salesforce, etc. I have a checkbox over here in the company information to activate multiple currencies. When I do so, I can edit this and enable multiple currencies. I can set where my location is. For example, I'm in the Chicago time zone. I'm not in the Pacific time zone. Where am I? It doesn't really matter, but you know, I like to be precise with things. Currency locale, it's US dollars. I will activate multiple currencies, but let's check out this big scary warning first. It is a permanent change to my org. You cannot undo. Once you do it, it's done. Cannot be turned off. There's an article to read, this, that, and the other thing. So if you activate it, just know that it is an irreversible decision. So if you want to test something out, do it in a sandbox, please. Do it in a dev org. Spare yourself the heartburn of going, yeah, so I turned this thing on and I can't turn it off. Sorry. We have left Earth's orbit and we're careening out of control into outer space, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. It's not that serious, but close. I'll activate the multiple currencies. What this does on the back end is it essentially turns on another object to start tracking what the currency exchange rates are. And then if you enable advanced currency management on top of that, I believe the object it enabled is called like dated conversion rate or something like this. There are a couple of different objects that are enabled. And I could talk through those in a second. Now I save. Okay, I've activated multiple currencies. Now I can manage them. Fantastic. We got other information about user license counts, this, that, and the other thing, permission set licenses, all this stuff. But if I actually want to start to manage my multiple currencies, I can go to, where is it?
It's a currency setup button.
Where is it? Oh yeah. I did this the last time I went to set this up too. Because in Classic, you used to have to go to the quick find menu and search for manage currencies. And now they have this button here. Or maybe it was there the whole time. I don't know. Whatever. So I click that button. Here again, we have advanced currency management is not enabled. If I want to enable that, I can. You can't see it, but I got another pop-up that says confirm that you want to enable advanced currency management. It allows you to manage dated exchange rates that map the currency conversion rate to a specific date range. There's more information there. I'm not going to worry about enabling that right now, but you get a pop-up. I believe, if memory serves correctly, you can disable advanced currency management, I think. I'd have to double check the documentation. So don't quote me on that. But if we want to enable it for two currencies, we can do that. Let's do US and Canadian dollars. All right, so one US dollar is 1.34 Canadian dollars. Excellent. We'll go back to that screen, which is somewhere. Here we are. I will create a new currency for Canadian dollars. Then I'm going to use the rate 1.34. Now I have two currencies in my org. Because my company information says that the US dollar is my corporate currency, that's why this box is checked. You can have only one corporate currency. That is the macro currency for this entire org. I can have other currencies that fall in this org as well, but they cannot, it's kind of like a primary quote. You can have only one thing that's primary. Ultimately, something has to win. So in this particular org, it's US dollars, I'm in the US, etc. This is the exchange rate, this 1.34. Let's say that I have data going back 10 years and it's all in this org. And I have disabled advanced currency management, and these are my conversion rates. Well, all reporting that I do is based on this exchange rate. $1 is $1.34 Canadian. The challenge with that, as you can imagine, is that exchange rates fluctuate by the second. They're constantly in motion, and therefore we're not capturing all of the nuance of the exchange rates over time if we use this approach. So there goes, then the idea is, well, if we need to do that, we need to use advanced currency management. Generally speaking, though, you will not update your exchange rates in Salesforce daily. Most companies will update them either quarterly or annually. That's about it. Very few companies implement advanced currency management in Salesforce on a more frequent basis than quarterly or annually. It's more work to do, and that's something more handled more by the financial systems. That's where it really starts to matter, and it has a big impact on the business. at the end of the day, Salesforce is more like a broad strokes, back of the napkin kind of thing when it comes to the fine details like this. Your ERP system will be your source of truth when it comes to exchange rates in the grand scheme of things. But we can do some of that here. I won't bore you with the details, but now we have our, if I edit one of these, it's the object name in the URL. It's not. Okay. Well, there's a specific object here with our currencies. I forget what it is. I think it might just be exchange rate. And then there's dated exchange rate. We can find out what those API names are later. But let's go back to the kitchen and see if we are finally in a place where we have CPQ installed. Let's see. Should be enough time now. Hey, look at that. Okay. This is back to the original org. This is the one that I'm going to use going forward to talk about future things that we can build out in CPQ. CPQ has been installed. I installed this in a free developer org using the old school steel brick links that are still publicly available. So if anybody wants to yell at me from Salesforce about this, I don't know, hide your links. I don't think I'll be in trouble for this. If I am, well, it's not the first time I've been in trouble. So there you go. Move fast and break things, right? That's the Silicon Valley way. Except I try not to run my businesses like that. I like structure, order, process, systems. It's a lot easier to run a business that way than everything's chaotic all the time. I'll spare my rants about instant messaging and email for other calls. Plus, you probably heard those before. Next, what I'll do, it's the same basic process to install billing and to install advanced approvals. I think with advanced approvals, it would be useful too to do just a whole session on setting that up and what that looks like. Maybe we do that on one of the next calls. But for the last 5 minutes of this one, I'll quickly talk through some of the configuration options that we have inside the package. In the Revenue Cloud Office Hours.org, I went to installed packages. I clicked configure next to the Salesforce CPQ package, and now I find myself here. At a high level, we have, what is that, 8 different tabs across the top of things we can do. Everything from documents to pricing and calculation, etc. Now, something newer that we didn't used to have to do is authenticate the calculation service. One of the first things you would do after you installed CPQ was authenticate with the Heroku server so that this org could use the advanced calculator. Otherwise, you would use the legacy calculator. Short version TLDR is legacy calculator, uses an Apex-driven calculation sequence. The advanced calculator, which is what's currently in place right now, uses a JavaScript-based calculation service and Heroku. The guidance for any company implementing CPQ now is use the advanced calculator. There's a reason it's called advanced. It's because it's more advanced. You can do more stuff. The legacy calculator is limited in scope to what it's able to do. It takes longer, blah, 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 blah. So use the advanced calculator. Going back to other things you can think about on this tab, though, enable quick calculate. I see people doing this a lot. They enable the quick calculate, which is essentially every field that I click in the quote line editor screen, which we'll talk about later, triggers a calculation. Sounds great on paper, and it looks really cool when you have a very simple quote and everything's working quickly and well and all of that. But if you have calculations that take a while, every single click is going to bog down that user. They're going to complain. They're going to come to you about it because you're the technical expert. Why is CPQ slow? Well, because somebody thought it was a good idea to enable quick calculate. It also hides issues. So when there are calculation issues and you have to click calculate twice, what people think is, oh, I'll just enable quick calculate and they'll sneak an extra calculation in there. No, fix the actual problem rather than covering it up with some quick calculate nonsense. It's a useful function. Use it if you want. I don't use it unless I have to. pricing guidance. This, I think, enables some extra objects and plays with Einstein analytics or whatever. I've never actually used it. Legacy calculator does what I just said. Use inactive prices. I forget what this does. Wow, helpful help text. Select checkbox to use inactive product prices. Cool. Calculate immediately. Or wait, this is a real-time calculation. What is quick calculate? To more quickly calculate quotes where price rules are not used. So now we got calculate immediately and enable quick calculate. I got to look at what both of those actually do. Suffice it to say, I don't actually use either of them because I don't even know what they do really, apparently. See, I told you I'm not the best. I don't know everything. It's fine. Most of the rest of this stuff we don't really need to worry about. Enabling usage-based calculations, blah, blah, blah. This is where a lot of the magic happens here, along with subscriptions and renewals. This is a really important screen that we can talk about next time. But I need to wrap it up for today because I have a veteran career coaching call in a minute. So thank you, everybody, for showing up today and talking about installing CPQ. I'll get the video uploaded here, hopefully by the end of the day, and I will see you all soon.
Awesome. Thank you,
Thank you.
John.
All right,
Thank
see
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.